Welcome to The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lane. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and local advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener, your host, Ken Lane, talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And it has been, the growing season has started. This, as the monsoons hit the mountains of Arizona, it's unique to the mountains. I wouldn't say this for the deserts, and I don't know Tucson or some of the other, but northern Arizona, if once you hit that 4,000 foot level plus, I can tell you that this is a second planting season. We take a break, and everyone wants to plant in the spring, April and May. Everyone wants to plant April and May. And it is because we've been pent up. Through the winter months, we were baking cookies too much. We were just pent up. Everything's waking up. They've all been twiggy out there. And there is this urge of the gardener just to get out there and get some fresh air, some sunlight, and plant something. Okay, that's good. But it's dry, it's crusty, extreme temperature swings. It can be a challenge to plant in spring. And so I find the loss rate, at least in this gardener's gardens, I have a higher loss rate in the spring than I do during the monsoon season. The monsoons, it's warm. So you put a plant in the ground, it roots immediately. I mean, it's going, warm soil. In the spring, you put it in the ground and the soil's still it's still thawing many times. It's still cold. Plants don't grow immediately. They wait until that temperature gets above about 55 degrees. That's when the soil temperature starts to tickle the feet of plants and encourages them to grow. Nature is sort of that way. Not now. The temperature is warm. It just immediately roots. The humidity is up. So you get some afternoon rains. It's just a better time to plant, especially those summer bloomers. We're talking crepe myrtles, the rose of Sharon's, even roses. If you were to deadhead your roses, just cut back some of those spent flowers, fertilize it, it would be in bloom within 2-3 weeks. It'd be in full, glorious bloom because everything is actively growing. You're seeing that with your weeds. Have you noticed? Weeds are going crazy right now. Well, okay, everything grows faster now, including the bugs, the weeds. Everything grows faster. You can use nature as a guide. When nature is growing stuff, it's time for you to plant and grow stuff. It just makes it easier. So I use cues from nature. They'll tell you when to do certain things. So I've been telling you fertilize in the month of July. If you can pick off some of those spent dead leaves, things have looked scrawny, thin, the leaves are torn, they're yellowing. If you could just quickly hand pick some of those things off, fertilize with the all-purpose plant food, a 744 kind of all-natural food, within 2-3 weeks, they would look like brand new plants. Don't allow those plants to focus and try to keep alive damaged, torn, worn out leaves. Pick them off. So it's forced to spend its energy on putting out a new foliage. So literally, you'll see that. We've been doing that around the nursery, and within days, you see new foliage coming out, just like that. Deadheading. Now, deadheading is that spent flower, and this is for blooming things. If you spend some energy just picking off those spent old stems, old flowers on your Europe's daisies, or any daisy, on your dahlias, on your roses, anything that is blooming. I deadheaded my penstemon that had been in bloom for 2 months. I took all those old spent flowers. I didn't take it right down to the foliage, but I just took the tops off. And I was walking out there this morning, and it's starting to bloom again. That's what many of your perennials, now flowers, they're perfectly happy doing their own thing. Bloom once, go to seed, stay to seed, spend all your energy on seed. They're perfectly happy with that. But if you were to pluck those flowers off, right now as this growing, this July, August, monsoon pattern, if you could encourage it, just pick those flowers off, fertilize it, you can get an entire another set of growth, a whole nother set of foliage on those plants. It will be showier than it was in spring just by strategically deadheading. Now, deadheading, what does that mean? Now, some plants are really easy. You can see the old flower. You just pick it off by hand. We call that pinching. You just simply take your thumbnails and pinch them off. Sometimes, like on petunias, I'll just pull them off. I don't even pinch. If I get a whole stem, I go, that's okay. It's overgrown. I'll take some of the foliage off. Some of the hanging baskets, I'll actually cut that hanging foliage back up to the bucket height. So it's grown, but you bought it as a cute little 14-inch plant. It was so pretty. You took it home, and now it's this mangy, overgrown, elongated plant. I'll cut those back with my pruning shears or my hedgers. Sometimes really big. I'll just hedge them right down. I'll cut them back to the bottom of that container or that hanging basket. Then I'll fertilize them with the all-purpose plant food. And they go into bloom like you can't believe. They'll a whole nother set of growth just by strategic deadheading, cutting back some of the damaged or just not producing foliage. And so I take that energy that the plant would try to feed all of that foliage. Now all of a sudden it has the same root structure, but more food to use. And now it's providing that nutrients to less of the foliage mass and less of the flowers that are going to seed. You can have a spectacular second bloom. I would say if you're having parties, weddings, this is important to do. Like, we love to host parties. Our backyard is set up for parties. About a week to 10 days, maybe a couple weeks, depends on my time, when I have time to do it. I'll go through and I'll take my coffee, and a week and a half before the party, I'll go through and deadhead everything and fertilize. And just so everything is at their maximum bloom, just as all the guests are coming back to fire up the barbecue, and all the gals are going, wow, you've got such a nice yard. And I spent maybe an hour or two just cleaning things up, deadheading things back and fertilizing. Really, really makes a difference. You can don't settle for spent flowers. In fact, I cut back my snapdragons. They've been bloom. They started blooming when? March or April sometime. They were in bloom, and they really haven't stopped. Now, snapdragons, they put on a long flower stem, and they keep blooming towards the top of that stem. In June, middle of June, they kind of went, I am just hot. And they stopped blooming. I went back about 2 weeks ago, and I cut all those old flower heads back to where the foliage was, just that nice green, rich, almost a forest green foliage. I just took my shears, cut them right back to there, fertilized them with the all-purpose plant food, and they are starting to bloom again. It's the humidity, it's the monsoons plus a little food, and cutting back those spent heads makes a huge difference. The plant is no longer hot. It's now going, gosh, I love the shade of the clouds. I love, 30-40% humidity. I love warm. I just love the warmth. I love everything about summer. And once snapdragons start blooming, they don't stop until like Thanksgiving. It's great. They bloom a long, long time. But strategic deadheading makes a big difference in your own gardens as well. Roses. Now, let's see. I should cover roses. I'll wait till the last half of the show, and we'll cover roses. What kinds of roses, how to fertilize them, how to deadhead them, because there's different kinds of roses. And each one's a little different. Well, you'll be a rose pro after by the end of the show, but we'll do that after the bottom of the hour. How about that? Because I got to dedicate more time than 30 seconds. The rest of your flowers, dahlias. I love growing dahlias. Those I pinch off. Just that old spent flower, and it will almost set a bud. Within a week, you'll have new buds that are starting to crack and open. I go so far as to take off the spent flowers of my butterfly bush. Now, you know that's the other name is summer lilac. It's the one that has that great big long purple, white to red flowers on them. Butterflies are all over them. They really like them. I go ahead and take those spent flowers off, fertilize them. They will put on an entire another show of flowers. Otherwise, they just kind of putz around. They always have some flowers. No, you can have the entire thing covered if you just deadhead and fertilize. Okay, That's it for this segment. Be right back.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him every week for timely garden advice right for the gardens. Visit Ken where he can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Waters Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, verbena, and crepe myrtle.
Crepe myrtle flowers are intense watermelon pink, solar reds, and LED whites that cover this heat-loving shrub.
Plant where you enjoy its beautiful multicolored bark and sinuous branches up close.
The flowers show against forest green foliage that turns red and orange in autumn.
Growing to just head height, every yard has room for at least one, and only available for summer planting here at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
Wondering why the grass is always greener on the other side? Well, it's probably because your neighbor used the all-purpose fertilizer from Waters Garden Center. Monsoon is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to feed your plants. Waters all-purpose fertilizer is the only organic made especially for Arizona mountain soils. Don't buy a bunch of different fertilizer for your flowers, veggies, trees, or grass. This one does it all. The plants on your side will be happier, healthier, well, greener. Safe, natural, organic. Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You've been listening to Ken Lane, the Mountain Gardener. Green thumbs learned while working in the Family Garden Center. Now welcome back to the Mountain Gardener.
And we are back here at the Mountain Gardener with my favorite gal, Lisa Waters Lane. What are you doing with the microphone? You don't play with them just as about we're going on live.
I'm making sure it's on.
Yeah, it's on.
Because there have been times
It's true.
when we have recorded and they've
Nothing
not
but
been
quiet air. We're professionals. We've been doing this for decades, but we still make mistakes. So
Yes, we do.
it's good to have verification. You always make me look good.
Well, I try.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know you do. At least you try. So this is I was with Mackenzie
Yep.
last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The largest gathering of garden centers, growers, landscapers, architects, our industry gets together in Columbus, Ohio. Why they picked Columbus, Ohio, I don't know. It rained every day. It's a flat land of just nothing but humidity and heat and rain, but you're in a huge convention center. It's easy to fly in and out of. It's right there on the eastern seaboard. But boy, did Mackenzie get fired up. She was just surrounded by, she went to a women in agriculture thing. I kind of go, here, honey, go and be inspired. Let me know what's going on. And then got to see all the inside. What's happening is the industry is creating these ginormous pieces of equipment for automation. And we're talking robotics, conveyor belts, lots and lots of robotics.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to be surrounded by, this is high tech. This is big agriculture at work in our industry. We just happen to have the finished product, but it takes a lot behind the scenes. And so we're showing off all that. You know, what do magnets do to water as they iodize it and get it through? We got a whole lesson on that, and then injectors and how you put the right fertilizers in and how it changes the water and makes the plants grow. Wow. She was jazzed. It was super fun. I mean, I kind of take it for granted, but to see the lights come on of someone that's kind of been in the industry, working at the garden center, but then you pull back the curtain and go, and this is what makes it all happen. Yeah. She was charged up. It's kind of fun. Yeah, and you get to go to nice dinners and stuff.
That's the fun part.
Anyway.
Well, super.
Yeah, it was super. We had to get her in here, and she was doing some TikToks and showing off.
Her do this.
No. I like hanging out with you. I like our daughters, but I like you more. So anyway, what are the questions today?
Okay, questions. Well, they're still coming because people are still out in their yard, still doing stuff in the yard. So Carol would like to know, what is that creature flying around that looks like a hummingbird, but it's not?
Yeah, they're thick right now, aren't they?
What is that?
Yeah, that's a hummingbird moth or sphinx moth, or the nemesis to your tomatoes and peppers. Yeah. So literally you can see a big green worm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, last year I saw a big green worm and it was eating the jalapeno pepper, not the plant, not the foliage,
the pepper,
the fruit.
Wow.
Go get that. Where'd that come from? Interesting tidbit that you may not know. If that same worm hummingbird moth, it's all across the country. It's a phenomenon here in the northern, North America. If it starts to eat tobacco, It's a crop. It kind of damages the crop there. You're trying to harvest these great foliage things, dry them out and make, cigarettes. Not good for you. You should not smoke. But anyway, if it gets in that crop, they turn blue.
Really?
If they eat tomatoes and peppers, they turn green. So they'll take on the coloration of what they're eating, like a lot of different plants. Kind of like budworms. They'll take on whatever color flower they're eating. That's the color. So I was looking at them on our purple petunias. They're purple. So you don't see them. You're going, what the heck is going on? Where the flowers go? And everything's purple. The
camouflage themselves.
They camouflage. They're trying to keep out of the way of birds, and praying mantis, and that kind of stuff. So hummingbird moth, they're good for the gardens. Enjoy them. There's nothing you can do to keep them out. They're so thick. They come out this time of summer. Just be aware of that their eggs, when they lay those in a couple of weeks, you'll start to see some caterpillars come up and maybe get in the gardens. Just don't know.
Keep an eye out.
Yes, keep only one though. Only one eye.
I noticed, I was in the upper greenhouse. We have a ton of pentas up there, and boy, there must have been at least 6 to 12 flying around, just having the time of their life.
It was magical. I'm going to try to capture a picture and throw that up on our Instagram Reels page. Just going, you don't see that every day. So the gardeners would enjoy that.
That is true. So it's pretty cool. All right. Lydia would like to know, her roses were doing really well in spring and early summer. Now they're just they haven't really put on any new buds or blooms. Wants to know if that's normal or what she should be doing.
That's normal, but you should not be happy. You should force them to bloom for you. Never be happy unless you've got a rose in full color.
Okay.
And so what you do is just pinch off the old just take your pruners. And they say cut back 3 nodes, cut back at a 45-degree angle. Anyway, just cut it back to shape. Just shape it. We're not trying to go for long stem bouquets for mom at Christmas. We're not trying to meet a deadline. Just make it look good so you enjoy it. Skip all the rules. Stop reading all that stuff on the internet because it confuses me even. Just shape it up. Go back to the next leaf and cut it off. Take all of those old buds off. Fertilize it with the all-purpose plant food, that 744. That's a granular food. Kind of water it in. And within just a few days, you'll start to see buds forming just like that. Right now, if you keep those buds on there, they'll actually focus on forming seeds or rose hips. It depends on the variety. There's a lot of different, but basically they're focused on, I want to reproduce. I've flowered, I've pollinated. Now I'm going to stop blooming. I'm going to start creating new roses, little rose babies around. Don't let them do that. You planted that thing out there to tease and just tickle your fancies, enjoy the fragrance, get them to bloom again. And it doesn't take much. Just clean them up, shape them. I would say take some of that foliage back. So those long canes that came out, just cut it right back, shape it up, fertilize it. You can't make a mistake this time of year. Things grow so fast. Just whack on it and then fertilize it. It'll just be right in bloom right away. Right.
Because they should bloom well into October, November.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to the end of the year, they'll have buds on them. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Steve wants to know, he wants to use Arizona cypress as a screen. He's covering about 200 feet of fence line. His question is, he heard you say it's not good to do a monoculture of just one tree. Yeah. So what would you mix in with an Arizona cypress that would have the same watering needs, care?
Sure. So most of your thicker evergreens are considered low water use. So you water them once a week, maybe twice, no more than twice a week, a deep soak. That's enough. If you get a good deep rain, you can cut one of those off, especially the Arizona cypress. So what kinds of trees match that? Well, junipers will match that, but that's just more green. So it may be a different color green. But what really looks good is when you match some deciduous things. So you want some privacy or windbreak, we'll break it up with something that grows really fast. So Arizona cypress, one of the fastest growing of the evergreen or conifers. I would say Deodora cedars are very similar. They grow really big. They get 3 times the size of an Arizona cypress, twice as fast. So it's just like they grow. So those are 2 fast growers, but to put some leafy things. So autumn blaze maples, they look great. in amongst the big red leaves in the fall. They're nice shade trees. They grow twice as fast as both of those. They'll grow twice as fast as the fastest growing evergreen. So they just grow really fast. They'll take the same water cycle. Ash, locust, purple robe locust, golden locust. There's a locust that has this beautiful yellow foliage, and then it greens up in the summer. Then its fall colors is gold again. Really fast grower, very drought hardy. It would adapt really well to that as well. So any other ideas you're thinking of? Something just popped up to mind?
No, I like the idea of mixing in the deciduous with it. I think it gives you a nice look out in the yard, a lot more interest than just 200 feet of Arizona cypress.
Yeah, I know. That's a long, it's a long run.
But yeah, you can mix, the Wichita blue junipers, Spartan junipers, Hollywoods, any of that.
There you go, Steve. Now you're informed. Come back and come see us, and we'll help walk you through the whole process. Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back.
You're listening to Ken Lane, a.k.a. the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Waters Garden Center. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain gardens.
Waters Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, purple verbena, crepe myrtle, and pentas.
Pentas are a butterfly magnet with super sweet nectar produced in starry flowers on 12-inch stems.
She loves heat and wind with minimal care to keep the flowers coming.
The large clusters of vibrant star-shaped flowers are stunning in pots and raised beds.
A superb flower that outperforms others as long as it's hot.
You'll only find heat-hardy pentas at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
I hate weeds. Monsoon rains are so refreshing, even my landscape comes alive, but so do my weeds. Stop weeds in their track in one simple step. Waters Weed and Grass Stopper spreads like fertilizer. It kills weed seed before monsoon rains allow them to sprout. No need to weed. It's safe for trees, even flower beds, and so much safer than that toxic waste the big box sells. Weed and Grass Stopper, and only found at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You've been listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Join the conversation every week as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Now welcome back your host, Ken Lane.
So I had the family over, when was that? Earlier this week, so after hours, after work. The kids came over, brought the dogs, and we just had a backyard barbecue. Slightly raining. We were underneath the umbrellas. It was just delightful. A secret. What's going to happen right now? Flies and mosquitoes and ants. They're going to become really bad. And so a little secret. Here's what I do. The night before your party, the night before you want to go out, spray it. Spray the areas where mosquitoes kind of hang out. They're going to get bad right now. They hang out in like the shrubs, the thick shrubs. They're like hanging out during the day, and then at night they come out and they suck on your blood. That'll destroy a party. Flies, just 1 or 2 flies bugging the guest. They're going to go inside. Mosquitoes. I mean, Lisa, she's sweet as can be. They love her. She's like the canary. They go after her so no one else gets bit. Well, that's unacceptable. That's not going to happen in the lane casa. We're going to take care of that. So I'll go through the night before and hose in sprayer. Hudson makes really good hose in sprayer. It automatically mixes. There's no thinking. You don't have to guess how many tablespoons to top off with water. Some of these things you have to be a rocket scientist to use. There's some really good tools. And Hudson puts together a great hose in sprayer. The benefit of a hose is you get the water pressure, which means you get the quantity. As long as you've got a sprayer that can pre-mix that as the water goes through it at the right ratio, it makes kind of cleaning up your yard so easy. And you get the pressure, it gets the distance to it. So you can take a hose and sprayer that's a real good one with typical like house water pressure. You can go up 30 feet up in the air or 30 feet out into the garden. So you can do it all from the patio, which is kind of what I do. I'll go around the patio and just kind of spot treat the roses. There's an aphid there. Yes, it kills them, but I'm really after are the flies and the mosquitoes. I don't want them to come into the patio area. I've got fly traps sitting around the outer areas. But they're kind of stinky. You don't want those close to your guests. They smell like flies, like rotting things. But I hang them out in the trees out there, so it attracts them hopefully away from the patio. Mosquitoes, they're just mischievous. They just find a way to get through and come at you. I think especially with a lush green garden area and humidity and rain and moisture, that's their thing. So I just go through and I sprayed it with Sayonara. It's a new bug killer that came out. It's liquid. It's fairly odorless. And if you hit them, they will die. And it has a residual that sticks in that euonymus thick shrubbery, or the great big thick red tip photinia or cotoneaster, or the big parts of the gardens where it's shaded and dark and cool. That's where those mosquitoes hang out. They're not in the open areas of pooled water, because you probably don't have that. You've taken care of the obvious stuff, yet you still have mosquitoes. So I'll take that hose and sprayer with Sayonara in it, pre-mixed at 1 tablespoon per gallon, and I just hose down everything in the yard. And we didn't have one bug bothering us, yet we should have. Another insider tip. So we like to entertain. And so I tend to plant in the containers close to where the entertainment is, like scented geraniums, rosemaries, lavenders, fragrant plants. We've got golden oregano, just all kinds of different herbally kind of plants that are known to repel insects. At least they're not going to hang out at the base of my containers, hang out there. In fact, if anything, if you brush up against a scented geranium, it releases this citronella kind of smell, which kind of smells good to us, but horrible to mosquitoes. So if you plan ahead, if you know you're going to be outside enjoying, now through September, through October, it's so beautiful in the yard. You just want to be outside enjoying the fresh air and the humidity and the sunsets and sunrises and just that cooler, breezy air with the light rain. That's just magic. And so I plan ahead back in April and May. I plant plants that repel insects in my containers. And then I like to strategically put it where kind of guests kind of brush up against it, or I'll brush up against it. If you're over at our house, I'll kind of purposely rub up against it. Or right before the party, I'll hose those scented geraniums, pentas, lavenders, lantanas. I'll hose them down lightly with a hose, just fresh water, not a bug killer, just fresh water, and that moisture releases those oils in there, and just the whole backyard just smells of freshness that insects don't like. Just some insider tips, just because I was hosting a party, and we'll do this probably once a week. We just love being in the backyard and enjoying a barbecue, or just watching the sunset, read a book. We just enjoy that, and that's a way to keep the insects out. Mosquitoes are going to become bad here through on. That's how you deal with them, so you don't have even one bite that you didn't think about this summer. Okay, back at you in just a moment with Lisa Watersline with her segment right after this.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for timely garden advice right for higher elevations. Guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season. Some things are just better together.
Which is the best time to fertilize with all-purpose plant food from Waters Garden Center.
But pair the all-purpose with humic acid, and it's a 1-2 punch of garden power.
Humic acid gives your soil organic matter that helps plants' roots receive water and nutrients.
So it makes fertilizer work even better.
Like salt and pepper.
Coffee and donuts.
And hey, you and me.
Aw, thanks, Ken.
All-purpose plant food and humic acid better together, and only at Waters Garden Center.
Waters Garden companion plants are maple, verbena, crepe myrtle, and rose of Sharon hibiscus.
Rose of Sharon is a mountain hardy hibiscus with anemone-like blooms.
Each stem of this hardy hibiscus is packed with buds.
She makes a beautiful informal hedge or screen and is easily trained into small trees.
Available Prescott colors show in blue, purple, white, red, and pink for years of enjoyment.
You'll find breathtaking hibiscus here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening is very rewarding, with a few of Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts sure to turn your thumbs even greener. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
All right, so Ken and Lisa Waters Lane, you look like you've been outside working in the yard pretty good. So
it's kind of sweltering.
It's a little toasty. Yeah,
it's the humidity. I can take the heat. That humidity just.
You know what the average humidity of Prescott, Arizona is, or this Central Highlands is?
No.
For the month of July? I was just looking up the historical record. 39% humidity. You know what the humidity was in Columbus, Ohio last week? 94% humidity. It's twice as much.
This is why I live in Arizona.
Yeah, I know.
But
guess what the most humid month is in the area? The most humid month is
July.
August, and it's 44%. So it goes up about 5% next month. Yeah.
So it's going to get worse.
It gets, yeah.
Is what you're telling me?
There's like a couple points where it's still not. You poor folks from the South, refugees from the South and Midwest, where it's like 100. Texas is like, why would you live like in a swamp heat? What is that? Come to God's country. It's so much nicer here. Yes, it's hot, but it's not. But it's tolerable.
It's not. Have we had 100-degree day yet?
Not at
we
all.
Haven't.
90s, low 90s,
yeah.
Which is normal for us. We generally don't see hundreds.
Right.
It'll pop up there real quick, and then it's right back down. But the lows are always in the 60s. Always. You can sleep with the windows open, enjoy listening to the frogs singing at you and the turtles croaking. No, maybe not. We do have frogs in our backyard periodically.
Yes, we do.
The Arizona tree frog, they'll kind of sing to us. It drives the neighbors crazy, but they're beautiful. Oh,
I really like it. It's one of the things I
you.
Enjoy. But yeah, the neighbor goes, it gives me a headache.
I know. They are loud. One little tiny frog, they're a little bit bigger than a silver dollar.
Yeah.
If you can
and you
say
never
that.
see them.
You don't see them, yeah, but they can sure yell.
Yes,
come to me. So what do you got for this segment? You're going to inspire us with plants and gardening and advice. And then I heard you were going to be doing some dancing.
Because I'm such a dancer.
Yeah. Yes. Maybe just stick with the plants.
I think probably. So I get when I'm on the nursery floor, which is frequently, people come in and one of the questions they're still asking right now is, can I still plant? Is there time to plant? And of course there is. This is a great time to plant. Great time to take a look at your yard and go, do I need more color? What do I need?
Yes.
Because this time of year, you can get a little one colorish going, you know, if you're not careful, just green. But you have plenty of time to put in perennials now, and they will be well rooted out before winter hits.
Oh, yeah.
Which means they'll take that cold temperature nicely and then come back next spring.
Not only that, but they'll quadruple in size. They'll bloom from now till the end of the year. There's a lot of positives. So it's way easier to plant now than, let's say, March and April when brand new foliage is out. The temperature swings are so extreme. There's going to be more snow. There's going to be another frost. Right. It just wreaks havoc on the plants. Now, if you make sure you water them, like a deep soak to the soil, boy, they just really, you can actually you can have the roots chase the water down deep into the soil because it's so warm.
So great time to plant. And we have a lot of great stuff. So we really concentrate on bringing new stuff in all the time so that we have, it's not old and tired and, been sitting there since April. We try to really keep the fresh stuff in there, keep it so it's got a lot of blooms and colors. So I brought a few samples. Yeah,
the studio smells delicious.
So this is a humongous daisy.
Yeah.
Now it's in a 1 gallon pot. But this plant is huge.
I know, it's crazy.
That is insane. So it's
it looks like a 5 gallon Shasta Daisy, but it does. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's a Shasta Daisy, just the one your grandma grew kind of thing. But just prolific bloomers. So nice. I love the white out in the yard actually because white just shows up so nicely.
It does, especially with dark colored like rock. Garden soil is generally dark. So you have that white, the forest green foliage with that bright white flower and the cheery little yellow center. It's so nice. Yeah,
so very, very pretty. Great time to be putting those in. Mix in wonderfully in perennial beds, raised beds, containers. Just does really, really well.
Another secret too. So inflation. There is inflation.
Yes.
And so things are more expensive, but not when you're buying plants from Waters Garden Center in the summer. Because what happened, this is a 1 gallon plant, but it looks like a 5 gallon size. So you're getting really a 5 gallon because they grow so fast at the farm and here at the garden center. We're deadheading, fertilizing, trying to get them to bulk up and be happy. You're getting a much larger plant now than you would in the spring for the same amount of money. So it's the same 1 gallon price, but it's got a much fuller, bigger, so that you can play the seasons to your advantage and get more plant for the same amount of dollars just by timing your garden centers. Anyway, I could go on and on about the seasonality.
Yes.
Anyway, what's another plant you could share with us?
Another plant I really like out in the garden. So the one name for this is tick seed, which I'm like, who named them tick seed?
I like the word tick. If I had another daughter, I'd name her middle name would be Tick.
Like, why not just name it pestilence and destruction? I don't know. But Coreopsis, it's in the Coreopsis family. But it still has that real pretty, almost light daisy type flower. But these are they're so prolific bloomers, especially if you keep them deadheaded. Take those spit heads just tip them off. It'll just bloom, bloom, bloom. And it's just so pretty and kind of airy.
Kind of a citrusy kind of smell when you rub the foliage. I
can't smell.
Citrusy smell. So anyway, it's kind of good, fun.
But real pretty. The another full sun one. Containers, beds, wherever you want to use it.
This is another one. I mean, this is $17, but it looks like a 2 gallon plant. I mean, it's a 1 gallon size, but it's so big. It's worth every dime of that for the amount of plant and the amount of flowers you're getting. And this will bloom. If you pinch those off, it'll keep blooming right through Thanksgiving or so. Probably after, as you get close to Halloween, let them all go to seed so that they can feed your winter birds, and they'll use this as a feed source through the harsher times of winter. So that's a good plant.
That's a pretty one. Another one I really like to use out in the yard is Agastache or Hyssop. Reason I like this one is it's a great attractor for hummingbirds.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh!
So if
what'd you do? Beat it up? Or you drop it like a couple times?
Okay, I'll be honest, I did.
Oops!
My hands were full as I was coming across the street.
It's hard to get that on camera. We're shooting this for the vlog, so this is videotaped. We shoot off to Signals AZ and our website and stuff, our newsletter, our insiders club, so they can see it. And then for the radio show, well, radio is just all about, we'll describe it well with lots more words.
Theater of the mind.
Theater of the mind. It's orange paprika color.
It's kind of I was going to go coral, but I like orange paprika.
There you go.
I think it's called Sunrise Red is its actual name.
Yeah, sunrise red.
But the great thing about this one is it's also very animal resistant.
Very much.
So if you've got javelina, bunnies, that kind of thing out there in your yard, this is in the herb family, Agastache or Hyssop. So it's very resistant to animals coming in and eating on it.
I like this one better. So I've started putting more of these in. We have a lot of Russian sage. We got the dwarf varieties. We've got new varieties out that stay shorter. They're not as weedy. So many Russian sages, you get them from the box stores, and you're getting a weedy Russian sage. It just spreads across the yard. It's too aggressive. Yeah. So we're introducing new, like lacy blue. If it's got an adjective in the name, it's probably a newer variety that's less weedy. Right. But this is even cleaner and neater and longer lived. And so this does not. It just keeps its shape perfectly vase shaped. Ours is about knee high or so out in the yard. It needs at least 6 hours of sun. And you're right, the hummingbirds, they love this plant. They can't resist it. And the bunnies, the javelina, the deer, the rabbits, any more antelope, they don't bother this because it's got that herbally, when you rub the foliage, it's got that real herbally,
it almost smells
herbally
like
scent.
It's a licorice.
Yeah, it does have a licorice smell. Yeah. No, it's a licorice mint chocolate chip. No, I have no idea. Anyway, Agastache. It's a great one. Yeah. Or what's the other name?
Hyssop.
Hyssop.
Right.
Great choices for summer planting. Put the plant down so I can get to the board to wrap this thing up. Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners. We'll be back with more right after this.
Look for more tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts through Ken's website. Podcast the show, read his weekly garden column, or follow him on Facebook and Instagram at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com.
300,000? Imagine a landscape needing 300,000 trees. Wow.
But that's exactly how many trees Frederick Olmsted planted in New York's Central Park.
That guy liked trees. Me too.
A 2014 study found the more trees in a neighborhood, the lower the incidence of heart disease.
Darwin, Einstein, and Beethoven hung out with trees to help them think.
Trees are part of nature that helps us relax, daydream, and feel happier.
Plant your own Central Park from Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
Waters Garden companion plants for July are hibiscus, maple, crepe myrtle, and purple verbena.
Purple verbena is mountain famous for gorgeous summer-long flowers held over compact green foliage.
This purple bloomer loves bright gardens, summer heat, and grows best in poor soils with less water.
Go ahead and abuse this bloomer. You can't kill it.
The perfect native perennial for easy summer long flowers.
You'll only find the toughest verbena here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
Welcome to the Mountain Gardener with Ken Lane. Gardening in the mountains is different. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now for better advice that works locally, welcome your host, Ken Lane.
So this weekend's garden class, so every Saturday we host a free garden class. They're about an hour long, and they're very engaging, very entertaining. We're hoping that we can keep you from making mistakes. You learn gardening by making mistakes, but at least keep you from going backwards. If you're making a mistake, at least you're going the right direction, okay? You can always kind of veer back over, come back. You're always correcting. That's gardening. And this weekend, this Saturday at 9:30, it's on privacy screens. There's lots of building, lots of houses going up. And neighbors are great. Good neighbors are really great. Bad neighbors, I think that's a Jewish curse, or I saw that from a prophet or something. The ultimate curse you can give someone is, may you have bad neighbors. Done. That's horrible. You just want good neighbors. And if not, you want to screen them out. Even screens actually make for better neighbors. You just enjoy each other better. You can enjoy that backyard space without stepping on each other's toes or each other's rose bushes or dogs looking at each other. So there's a secret to planting in the higher elevations. You can't just have everything. Not only do we have hard soil, heavy wind, dry spells, we also have very heavy snows, especially fall and spring, that can actually tear up some plants. So in the Midwest, it says it will grow here, and we're the same zone. That's true, but they're used to getting cold and staying cold. They don't thaw and then freeze, thaw then freeze. This daytime temperature thing that we go between day and night, which is so extreme in very late winter, early spring, and late autumn, early winter, that messes with some plants. And so arborvitae that do so well in the Midwest, here, that heavy snow comes, it lands on it, and it almost breaks apart or separates that evergreen. You're better off going with a central leadered evergreen like a Spartan Juniper, Wichita Blue Juniper, Arizona Cypress. There's so many. Colorado Spruce, Arizona. I mean, there's so many choices. But that really heavy central leader branch, the branches swoop out from there. Deodora Cedars. That's a much better choice than a more shrubby kind of thing. And so there's some better choices for here than not. Some of the wind can leaf tear some of the varieties. And so there's better plants than others for privacy screens. If you want a living wall, you can have that. And you start with the shrubs. So red tip photinia, #1 seller. Aggressively grows up to 12 feet tall, 12 feet wide, and you're just going to hedge it down to keep it under control. It's really not made for small yards. You kind of want some open space. It gets pretty aggressive. You put it next to the driveway and go down the driveway. You're going to be fighting that thing to keep it off your driveway so you can keep driving up and down the driveway. And so place it further back. There's some better choices if it's too big or too aggressive. There you go to cotoneaster, or the way you spell that is cotton easters, how They don't know how to pronounce it, but the actual Latin is cotoneaster. That's a great choice. It's a native. There's several varieties of cotoneaster that grow wild here. It's evergreen, has a white flower in the spring, gets up there's different models, but it can be hip high, chest high, or even very large, well over head high. The red clusterberry cotoneaster, very good choice. Animals don't eat it. Red-tip photinia, deer can tend to nibble on it. Not a cotoneaster. They don't like the taste. So yet it still grows quite dense, very thick. It's a good choice for here. If you're wondering how many you might need, that's when come talk to us, because we want to help you get that spacing just right. But what I do is I'll look at the suggested width. It grows 10 feet tall. What I'll do is I'll back that off and divide it by 2, and that's my spacing. So every 5 feet, I'll put a cotoneaster, and that way I'll get this very heavy crossover, overlapping green pattern up to well above head height. And so I've got thick green right up to 7, 8 feet tall. That's kind of your spacing. Divide the width in half. That's your spacing down the yard. Maybe you cheat a little bit out there. If it says 10 feet, maybe you go 6 feet. But that's about a general rule for you. So that's a good choice. Spartan Junipers are what Lisa and I use, just because we like that green. Has a pretty green color to it. We've got a lot of natural blues, patchy plume, lots of the oaks. They're natural Arizona blues, and sometimes you just want more green. It's a good contrasting pattern, so it's a design element. Yet Spartan Junipers grows up to about 10 feet tall, 5, 6, even 7 feet wide. And so we just zigzagged them through the front of the yard, and now it feels like this private courtyard that's created just for us. And it is. It's great. Another choice, if you've got enough green, you want blue, Wichita blue juniper is just like the Spartans. It gets 10 foot tall by 5, 6 foot wide. Perfect screening plant up and down patios, down the property line. But it's this intense, just rich, silvery blue. It's very pretty. There's Italian cypress. That's one the Californians like. They remind me a little bit too much of cemetery tree kind of stuff, but grows to 50 foot tall. And a pencil just like 3, 4, 5 feet wide, straight up to the moon. Perfect column. There's a place for that. And so that grows really, really well here. Great privacy screen. I would say the prettiest one, the most popular, is Colorado spruce. Colorado spruce gets up to 50 feet tall by 20 feet wide. Big swooping branches. They grow wild at the higher elevations. But if you put them on drip system, they'll grow in Chino Valley, Prescott Valley, even the Verde Valley. They'll adapt really, really well to the mountains of Arizona. It's a very deep-rooted type of plant, but we're talking thick, 20 feet thick. I mean, you can't see through this thing. It's a little bit slower growing, so if you're going to try to screen using a Colorado spruce, just buy a bigger model. Get a more mature one, because it might take a while for it to get from 3 foot to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet. We'll just start out with a 6, 7, 8 footer, so you're just that far more advanced. The fastest growing is Deodora Cedar. It grows, it's a big boy, probably 50, 60 feet tall, 25 feet wide, and we're doing it right now. The problem with something that grows that fast and it's that big is it can quickly overpower. It can take up an entire front yard. One tree, the entire yard. So it's really for the bigger type of properties. I would never plant one. I'm on a half an acre. And I would never plant a Deodora cedar. I just don't want one plant to take up that much real estate. I'd rather plant several Spartan Junipers, which is what we did, zigzag them through so they stay keeping their bounds. Less maintenance, less work. They're hardy as can be. So it's just, you look at your spot. If you need privacy, this is one, take a snapshot. Take a phone, an iPad, a Chromebook or something. Take a snapshot and bring it to the nursery. We can help you design that. And what we're looking at that picture is, what are the companion plants that are already growing there? If we see lilac are growing there, we go, lilacs, forsythia and euonymus and cotoneasters, and there's silverberry. There's a whole list. Oh, all these will grow well too. So it helps us know the soil, the sun, the wind. If that's growing, so will this. What we can't tell when you bring in a digital device or even a picture, I love old school pictures. Remember when we used to actually hit print and it would come out on paper? Remember that? So that's really great. You can draw on that, and just some things you can do with analog instead of just digital devices. But anyway, we can't tell length. Like you just can't really see how long is that property. Is it 50 feet or 150 feet? But if you could paste that off with a quick picture, we can quickly design things for you. And I like the idea of gardens instead of living green walls. All the same thing. We're going to do Arizona cypress 150 feet down. It's going to be a monoculture. It's going to be solid blue all the way down the property. That's good. But if you have a disease go through them, it takes out the entire length of that. I like gardens, so it feels more like a secret garden. So different mixtures. I put some aspens in there, put some maples, have some evergreen, have a spruce and a juniper. Mix it up so it feels natural. Not like a living wall, like a planted wall, but a garden that is naturally sprung up around your garden. The second you built your house, it went, let's just grow here and screen those neighbors over there. It's a great way to do it. All right, we got more for you after this.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener. Plants are a lot like puppies. They need care, water, and food.
You wouldn't forget to feed your puppies, so don't forget to feed your plants.
Waters 744 All-Purpose Plant Food is a gourmet meal for your plants.
The only food for Arizona plants with the nutrients they need for big blooms, a hefty harvest, and tremendous trees, all naturally.
It's time to feed your plants with 744 All-Purpose Plant Food from Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
Hi, Ken, with our Vine of the Week and our Arizona Sunset Trumpet Vine.
Huge, deep red flowers cluster to create a dramatic summer show.
This vigorous vine thrives and blooms with near neglect.
Fast growing to cover chain link fence, shade structures, and trellis quick.
Easy to train as a ground cover up a rock face to hold soils from erosion, and just $34.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love vines that bloom red, they love to shop. You've tuned in to The Mountain Gardener with local garden expert Ken Lane. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lane.
So really protect your landscape in summer. So as we wrap this thing up, and there's a few key things that you can really watch. And it's just getting outside and walking your gardens. Never assume that they're okay. And so you'll find I was out looking at my petunias. They've been spectacular. I've got this new Starry Night purple petunia. It's got white speckles, and it looks like a night sky. It's overflowing this huge pot. And then there's this Taniosho pine that I've pruned up. It's about 3 or 4 feet tall, nothing but trunk, and this beautiful pine tree palm at the top. It's spectacular. Yeah, it's beautiful. And my petunias stopped blooming. I'm looking down at it, and it's got budworms. You'll find caterpillars are out. Right now we had a brand new load, beautiful, stunning pentas come in. Pentas are a little annual flower, about just shy of knee high. They get kind of ball shaped, but they're covered in red and white and pink flowers. And the hummingbird moths are all over. I mean, literally, this one table could have 6 of these hummingbird moths or sphinx moth. It's a huge moth that looks like a hummingbird at first. Then you go, well, wait a minute. That's not a hummingbird. What is that? That's also the adult stage of tomato worms. So they're eating the flowers or pollinating flowers. They're so good for pollinating out in the yard, but then she wants to go lay her eggs on your tomatoes and your peppers and your vegetable gardens. And so all of a sudden you'll see, probably in about 2 weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks, you'll see foliage starting to disappear. What happened to my tomatoes? That's going to be She pollinated your flowers coming through, and they're thick. I've never seen them so thick. Now, this is a brand new crop of flowers. So, of course, the nectar is just irresistible to them. They're just stunning. So, and butterflies, monarchs and swallowtails and painted ladies. They're all the butterflies are going to love pentas, P-E-N-T-As. And so are your sphinx or hummingbird moths. So if they weren't on the flowers, they're going to get on your tomatoes no matter what. Watch them. Just go walk through the yard and just look for leaves disappearing or little dots, little nuggets on top of the foliage down below. That's caterpillar poop. And this is a worm that gets 4, 5, 6 inches long. They're crazy how big they get, and they can devour foliage in a heartbeat. Walk your evergreens. If you see webbing on there, that's spider mites. Walk your flowers for little. If they've been blooming and all of a sudden the flowers are gone, take a close look. There's a little 1-inch caterpillar that's eating just the flowers. They only eat flowers, so it's a good time. And I've been fertilizing my yard. Make sure this is a good time to just fertilize. Spread the fertilizer out, a good granular food, that 744 all-purpose plant, but sprinkle it out there like it's fairy dust. And while you're there, take a look at your flowers. Take a look. We go over a lot of this. So this weekend's class is on privacy screens. We've covered some of that here, but then also every Saturday at 9:30, we've got a garden class. And we want to help you kind of recognize what to look for seasonally, what's changing each month of the landscape. And we've got such a long growing season. Next month, August 6th, it's going to be proper planting for success. July 30th, the last week in July, is edible landscapes with trees and berries. Then we've got wildlife and bug prevention, the best evergreens for mountain landscapes, and it just goes right through fall. They're free. They're kind of fun. They're informative. Please join us. We want to hang out with you and just help you here's a couple things we've learned. I think this will really help you. Throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Waters Garden Center, and of course, we love talking to folks one-on-one here at the Garden Center, helping friends with their gardens here at Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
We believe in picking apples and pears fresh from the tree at Waters Garden Center.
Hi, Ken here with the Plants of the Week and our Arizona Cypress.
If you want low-maintenance natives, easy care, and reduced water use, then this is the evergreen for you.
When planted in rows, they block the wind, traffic noise, and make the perfect privacy screen.
Comes in an Arizona blue, easy to grow, and prefers monsoon planting.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love native evergreens, they love to shop.
If you want a more fruitful garden, increase success in your landscape that just feels better, then tune in every week to The Mountain Gardener. Years of tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts are guaranteed to make your gardens nicer than ever. Listen to this podcast or read Ken's weekly garden column by visiting watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Thanks for tuning in.